Hello and welcome to the BIS talks on hazard analysis and critical control points as provided in IS 15000-2013. To have access to safe and nutritious food is the right of all the citizens. Food is not only required for sustainable living, but it is also the key to promote good health, as unsafe food may lead to illnesses. Therefore, it is very important to maintain food safety at all times, since it can lead to damage at a very large scale. Its adverse impact on health and economy. Consumption of infected food has been known to cause foodborne illnesses and infections at a very large scale. It also results in extra economic costs for governments. Global health scenario is alarming and a reminder on how seriously we should take food safety. Today, we are going to look closely as to what HACCP is all about, the different kinds of hazards that can enter into the food chain and the controls to be exercised by a food business to prevent occurrence of any type of hazard and to make the food safe, and how HACCP certification offered by the BIS can help your business. Now let's get a few basics on food safety in place. What do we understand by safety? It is the freedom from risk or danger. And what is food safety? It is an assessment that food will not cause harm to the consumer when it is prepared and or taken according to its intended use. Now, what is hazard? A biological, chemical or physical agent in or condition of food with the potential to cause an adverse health effect. First, let us understand the hazards.
One of the most important aspects for HACCP is to identify the hazards in the system of any organization. It will vary from organization to organization. Food hazards may be biological, chemical, physical, allergenic, etc. Important biological hazards include macrobiological, that is internal or external parasites, and microbiological, that is fungi, bacteria, viruses, including pathogens. Chemical hazards include mycotoxins like aflatoxins in groundnuts, botulin, ergotin, pesticide residues, heavy metals like arsenic, lead, cleaning chemicals, allergens, veterinary drug residues, antibiotic residues, chemical additives, plasticizers, other toxic materials, etc. Physical materials or hazards are like insects, pests, filth, hair, metal fragments, pieces of plastic, wood chips, and glass, and any other extraneous visible matter. Now come to the radiological hazards. It consists of radiological contamination of drinking water, generally occurs as a result of contamination by human-made sources of radiation. All these occur due to unsanitary conditions of production, processing, handling, storage, and distribution of food. Now let us discuss hazard control. The food safety team is required to carry out a hazard analysis and prepare a hazard control plan. This includes following steps. First, describes each product in detail. Second, prepares and verifies the flow charts on site. Third, conducts a hazard analysis to identify and assess hazards occurring at each process step. Fourth, for each significant hazard thus identified, the organization shall select appropriate control measure to reduce the hazard to acceptable limit. Fifth, validate the control measures. Sixth, establish a hazard control plan based on the above steps, defining the hazards to be controlled, their critical limits, monitoring procedures, corrections to be done, and records to be maintained.
Now, let us take a closer look at what is HACCP. We all know that prevention is better than cure. Hazard analysis, critical control points, or HACCP as it is popularly called as per Indian standard IS 15000-2013, is an internationally accepted collective technique which involves the use of preventive safety measures and procedures taken by a food establishment to ensure food is free from hazards. As food safety hazards can occur at any stage of the food chain, from the farm to factory to fork, during processing, packaging or storage, adequate controls throughout the food chain is absolutely essential. Or in other words, application of HACCP by food businesses is a proactive approach to safeguard food from microbiological, chemical and physical contamination. It is also very interesting to know the history of HACCP, how it was formed and when. HACCP originated in the 1960s when the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, that's the NASA, the Pillsbury Company and the US Army laboratories collaborated together to provide safe food for upcoming space expeditions. Issues that arose at that time were: food was to be designed for consumption under zero gravity. It was necessary to ensure 100% safety free from biological contamination. Pillsbury adopted a preventive approach.
In 1993, the Codex Alimentarius Commission, which is a FAO and WHO body, endorsed the HACCP system as the most cost-effective approach which was devised to date for ensuring the safety of food. The Indian standard on HACCP, that is IS 15000-2013, is based on HACCP system developed by Codex Alimentarius Commission. In other words, we can say that HACCP is a science-based and systematic approach which identifies, evaluates and controls hazards which are significant for food safety. It focuses on prevention rather than end product testing. It can be applied to the entire chain from farm to table. It is internationally recognized and in some cases mandatory also. It is imperative for the food businesses to identify type of hazards and risks that may occur in their product using HACCP approach. As every company needs to identify type of hazards and risks that may occur in their product and the critical control points that may require necessary preventive action of setting critical limits, control measures. This action is monitored periodically during HACCP implementation.
Let us now go through the requirements of the standard to understand how these principles are to be implemented through certification of HACCP principles.
There are certain prerequisite requirements or PRPs which the company or plant needs to maintain before implementing HACCP in their plant, which will vary from organization to organization, like plant hygiene, personal hygiene, food hygiene, any legal requirement or legislations, and training of staff. Some examples of prerequisite programs are building and equipment design, cleaning and sanitation, proper facilities, that is storage, means cold stores, chemical stores, personal hygiene, that is hand washing, good hygienic practices, maintenance, waste management, pest control, approved suppliers, operational controls such as policy documents, work instructions, and staff training.
And we have been in close association with Bureau of Indian Standards for past 25 years. As far as the hazard analysis and critical control points are concerned, being in the milk packaging and processing unit, we have identified few prerequisites for our plant, and that include cleaning and sanitization, pest control, personal hygiene, storage, and waste disposal. After having identified these prerequisites, we need to work on how the hazard analysis work for us. So for that, we need to identify certain hazards. Say for we are dealing with the pouch packing. So what are the hazards in our work? There could be some extraneous matter that can spoil the milk. Then there could be any pathogens or any type of other adulterant that can cause spoilage of milk. So we need to first assess the hazards related with our work. Then we need to assess the risk and severity of these hazards. After this risk assessment, we can go for the analysis of or realization of critical control points. In the milk industry, we have pasteurization and storage as our critical control points. After realizing these critical control points, we set the critical limits. Say for if a certain critical control measure has not been exercised properly, then what we need to do next? In the milk industry, we have identified pasteurization and storage as our critical control point, and we have set for certain limits. Say for the pasteurization, if it is not proper, if the temperature is not attained, then we go for pre-processing of milk. We have identified these critical control measures, and at every step the monitoring of these critical control points and critical limits has to be verified, and we keep a documented proof of all these verification and management procedures.
After PRP implementation, there is the logical sequence for application of HACCP by the organization as per IS 15000:2013. First, assemble the HACCP team. The team should have appropriate product-specific knowledge and expertise for the development of an effective HACCP plan. In fact, the best way is to assemble a multidisciplinary team. Second, describe the product. To include relevant information such as composition, physical chemical structure, including water activity, pH, etc., and treatments required such as heat treatment, freezing, braining, smoking, etc., packaging, durability and storage conditions, and method of distribution. Third, identify its intended use or expected uses of the product like vulnerable groups of the population. Fourth, construct flow diagram by the HACCP team to cover all the steps in the operations. Fifth, on-site verification of flow diagram by the HACCP team during all stages and hours of operation, and amend the flow diagram if required. Sixth, list all potential hazards, conduct hazard analysis, and determine control measures.
After the above, preliminary steps is undertaken by the food business. Application of HACCP as per IS 15000:2013 by a food industry involves the following 7 steps, also known as 7 principles of HACCP.
Principle 1 is conduct a hazard analysis. Now, the process of collecting and evaluating information on hazards and conditions leading to their presence to decide which are significant to food safety and should be addressed in the HACCP plan. What is the principle 2 is to identify the critical control points or the CCPs, a step or steps at which control measures can be applied and is essential to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. Examples are chlorination, filtration, RO, UV, etc. in water treatment. Principle 3 states to establish critical limits, a criterion or safety limits which separates acceptability from unacceptability. Principle 4, it establishes monitoring procedure, set up checks for control measures at CCP to confirm that the process is under control and within the critical limits. Finite example, let us consider a type of hazard. Hazard is physical, which is extraneous matter in water, and what is the control point is filtration, and monitoring can be done by filter sieves, sizes and integrity. The critical limit in this case would be the turbidity, which is less than 1 NTU. The fifth principle is to establish a corrective action. It is to decide what to do, when critical limits are exceeded, or in other words, any action and activity that can be used to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. Principle 6 states to establish a verification procedure. It verifies that the HACCP plan is working. Principle 7, it establishes record keeping and documentation.
Let us now hear from one of the BIS officers.
One of the principles of HACCP is to establish effective record keeping and documentation. According to the Codex guidelines, documentation and record keeping should be appropriate to the nature and size of the operation and sufficient to assist the business to verify that the HACCP controls are in place and being maintained. In an unfortunate event of a food safety incident, maintained documentation and records may provide evidence of due diligence. Examples of documentation include HACCP plan, hazard analysis, CCP determination, and critical limit determination. Examples of records are CCP monitoring activities, deviations and associated corrective actions, verification procedures performed, and modifications to the HACCP system. Some other records include chlorine dosing records, chlorination monitoring records, temperature monitoring records, filter check records, water testing records, etc. All these records are an essential part of documentation.
Having identified the prerequisite requirements and programs, next step is to identify the HACCP requirements. Taking the example of pouch milk packing, hazard identified in this process include adulterants, extraneous physical matter, microbiological pathogens, etc. Risk and severity of occurrence of each of these hazards is assessed. This helps to establish CCPs in a process. So, in the milk pouch packing process, pasteurization of milk and storage of pasteurized milk are identified as CCPs. We establish the critical limits for these CCPs and corresponding monitoring mechanism detailing what need to be monitored, how, when and by whom. So, for pasteurization, we monitor the pasteurization temperature through calibrated temperature indicators every 30 minutes during the pasteurization of milk. Thereafter, based on the monitoring data, we establish the corrective action to be taken when monitoring indicates that a particular CCP is not under control. So, for instance, the result of monitoring indicate that critical limit for pasteurization was not met, the corrective action would be to reprocess the milk. The next step is to establish procedure for a verification to confirm the HACCP system is working effectively. The entire activity including all procedure and records need to be properly documented.
Now that we know about the standard, let us hear about the certification of HACCP system. The HACCP certification provides advice on how to improve internal processes, consistently produce safe food, lends confidence to the organization, and to enable it to demonstrate this to all its customers at large.
Organization desirous of obtaining system certification as per HACCP has to do the following: understand the requirements of the standard, implement the standard and prepare documents as required by the standard, conduct training program for the employees to develop a shared understanding of the tasks to be performed, lay down the objectives and norms to measure progress against them, establish policy, identify risks and opportunities, institutionalize internal audit and management review. Application can be submitted online through MSCD portal. To submit the application of any organization, they have to identify the regional office under whose jurisdiction the premises is located and contact the concerned management system coordinating officer in case it is required. Management system certification officer of the region will guide you about the process of application and extend necessary support in the certification process. Now on acceptance of application, date for stage 1 audit is communicated along with the details of auditor and the fees to be submitted. Stage 1 audit is performed to verify the authenticity and adequacy of the information shared by the organization regarding its preparedness through verification of documents, field visit and discussion with the team and top management. Instances of non-conformity are communicated for corrective action within the mutually agreed time frame. On successful completion of Stage 1 audit, Stage 2 audit is planned for final verification of the compliance with the requirements of the standard. In case there is some corrective action still required to be taken, 45 days time is given to the organization to do that. On successful completion of the Stage 2 audit, license is granted, which has the validity for 3 years. Now during this 3-year period, BIS undertakes 2 surveillance audits to ensure that the organization has stayed compliant to the requirements of the standard. I urge you to come forward and take management system from BIS. BIS, with its vast experience and strong team of professionals, will be by your side in this beautiful journey.
Undoubtedly, HACCP certification from the BIS offers many advantages. Certification from National Standards Body of India. All schemes are operated in accordance with the international standard ISO IEC 17021-1/2015. Ensures objectivity, confidentiality and impartiality in the certification process. Professional, competent, qualified and ethical auditors in all technical areas and sectors. Certification confidence to the interested parties. Ensures improvement of processes on a continuous basis. So friends, if you are in the business of food, get the HACCP certification. It is the key to gateways of opportunities to grow and win the trust of your consumers, distributors, partners and other stakeholders.